Hi, Diego. Are you there?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Are we waiting for anyone else from the Beacon team to join in?
Nope. Probably it's only me, so it's okay.
Okay, perfect. Where are you calling from today, by the way?
You mean locally where I'm based right now? I'm currently in Chile, Santiago, Chile, South America.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bit far away, but yeah, I mean I do travel often, but I live here. I'm based here, although well most of the team is remote, but most of us come originally from here, from Chile.
Nice, nice. Just putting out a couple more like reminders about the space,
Hmm.
and yeah, we'll maybe get started in like a minute.
Of course.
All right, so I think we can just get started, and as people trickle in, that'll be great. So, yeah, thank you so much to the Beacon for joining us. Definitely one of the hottest games on Arbitrum, if not in Web3 right now. They are really pushing a ton of updates, and that is pretty much, I think, a pretty rare sight, like in the gaming industry, let alone blockchain gaming. So, we're really excited to hear sort of what you guys are planning and sort of what we've been missing out on if we haven't jumped in yet. So, yeah, Diego, if you could take it away and sort of like let us know what the game is about and a bit about your team and the Beacon community.
Right, sure. So I guess I could start with the game itself. Um, the Beacon is a fantasy roguelike RPG game that blends in the social aspect of MMOs together with NFTs, right? And that may sound a bit complicated, but it's basically a game that spins around two core dimensions. The first dimension is a solo roguelike dungeon crawler, right? Where players go into dungeons, and the idea of this dungeon, they use procedural generation, which basically means that every time you enter, the structure of the dungeon and the challenges inside the dungeon are generated by code, which basically means that every time you enter, you're going to have a different experience, right? It's a very action-heavy game, a game that requires skill to be played, you know. And the idea of the solo aspect of the game is that you go into these dungeons, and the farther you get, you obtain loot and prizes that you can take home, right? And some of these items are NFTs, all right? The other dimension of the game is a highly social gameplay that's powered by a few other concepts. One of which is a house builder. Every player, just for the sake of existing, is entitled to own a house, and they can decorate this house with the items that they find during their dungeon runs. So the idea is you go through dungeons, the better you are at it, the better stuff you get, and you start decorating and building your house with these items, which are NFTs. At some point, we will include the functionality for people to be able to visit other players' houses or to invite people over into their houses and, well, even sell NFTs through their houses. It's part of our roadmap, let's say. But besides the house builder, we also have a very highly customizable character cosmetic systems. Characters are very unique. You can dress them in multiple ways with the items that you find during your dungeon runs as well. And the other important aspect that we're working upon is highly social gameplay in the sense that we played plenty of MMOs while growing up. And if you ever played games like World of Warcraft or any other MMO for that matter, you will quickly notice that most of these games have like a city or a town where you need to go to in order to interact with the core elements of the game, such as questing or crafting and stuff like that, right? And it's usually in those areas where people gather and just like chat socially and interact, right? We're One of the things we're aiming towards is to recreate that same vibe on the beacon by having this open world city where you can see other players running around, talk with them, interact with them, trade with them, and of course showcase your stuff to them. So it's a game that if you tie those two aspects together and power it by NFTs, you get a very unique and let's say novel to some degree experience that has like this social aspect with a highly replayable, fun game that seems to be very engaging. So we launched our prototype back in November, a prototype of these two core features that I just mentioned. And even though it was in a very limited scope, let's say we had a very limited version of our dungeon runs and of our, let's say, character system and house builder, people hopped in and really liked the overall style and vibe of the game, because what we did was building a game first that was able to tap into the benefits of blockchain without really requiring it, in the sense that the game is a free-to-play game, but if you want to obtain NFTs from the game, you need to purchase a character. And a character is a very accessible asset that's worth around $30 or 40. And if you have a character, you can start obtaining NFTs and transacting them on the market. But it's not mandatory. It's like you can enjoy the game without that. So that's a brief introduction of the game. I'd say part of the reason why it has been successful is because even though it's still early, it's a fun experience and people have enjoyed it. And I think that that's one of the things that we were sort of missing in Web3, right? Like having, fun first experiences. So that's a brief introduction of the game. I don't know if that suffices as the first question.
Oh, it's amazing overview. Yeah, I think from what you just said, yeah, it's a huge endeavor. Again, a lot of dungeons. So I'm glad that you kind of explained like how all of that works, because I was thinking, wow, 4 per week, that's a lot. So I think it makes sense. Like that's the whole sole purpose, is to like go through these dungeons. So that's why if you get through them quickly, it makes sense to have more to give people more of a challenge.
Yeah, so
and I guess keep them entertained.
Exactly. So part of the things that we were doing is, so the game is still being developed, right? So the funny thing is that most of the dungeons, as they are right now, they're made by hand, by me actually. I'm the one who maps the dungeons. But what we're doing now is that we're releasing like new content structure that allows us to build dungeons quicker by putting different pieces or different rooms together in a quick fashion, which allows us to have like these 4 weekly dungeons that people can explore and at least have something for them to look towards each week, right? And we will have tournaments and ideally a leaderboard at some point and prizes for those things. But this is also like a transitory step towards the actual end goal of the dungeon system, which is that you can just go to the dungeon wherever you want to and have procedural generation, which basically means code generating the dungeons, granting you a fresh and unique and novel experience every time you go in. We don't have that right now, but we're getting closer to that step by step.
Gotcha. And in terms of the other players and I guess everyone that makes up the Beacon community, what can, across users expect when we go over there? Like, we want to make sure that we are kind of in the know for all the memes, and
you mean
we're not like too out of the loop.
You mean, sorry, I lost you 1 second, but you meant how does our community look like?
Yeah, like all the gamers, like sort of what is the overall like community vibe? And
Yeah. So
let us know some of the
I mean,
memes.
to me, community is one of the best aspects of building in this space, because people are really, really funny, really committed. We do run often meme contests and stuff like that, where people just, I don't know, they share their minds and their creativity about about how the project is going, right? But I would say that our community is not only ours per se. One of the things that the Beacon has is that we're the only diamond partner right now of Treasure Dao, which is basically a huge gaming ecosystem on Arbitrum, right? And plenty of the community that initially composed the Beacon came from Treasure Dao. Like we were one of the, let's say, hallmark projects. It was natural for them to flock in and get into the Beacon, right? And the funny thing is that the Treasure DAO community is a very particular community, at least in the Web3 space. Like they have this very particular set of memes and this behavior, and they all share an ethos, let's say, about Web3 gaming and blockchain in general. And that community, I would say, helped tailor the overall vibe that we have on the Beacon. I'd say that the Discord is a very funny place to be at. There's virtually like no or very little, I don't know, FUD or stuff like that. There's actually it's a very funny experience to chill with the people in there. Plenty of memes, plenty of comments, plenty of frustration about the dungeons sometimes, in the sense that they're challenging and hard, and people it gets off their nerves, I'd say, in some degree. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's a very I don't know, fulfilling experience to be fostering a community that's so fun and engaged, and we certainly have that, and we certainly want to keep on growing that and working towards that.
So Diego, are these dungeons like Cuphead level hard, or
I mean,
I don't know,
you could argue that
original Mario hard?
I mean, so they vary, right? And they vary each day depending on, well, it's more it's an interesting thing because it's part of a creative process how to adjust the difficulties because I'm pretty much the one behind it. But I could argue that this week in particular, we're having an event with Kaiju Kings, which is another PFP project in the space. And we created a particular boss for this event that appears in 4 dungeons. And each day the boss gets increasingly harder, right? And we plan to reward those players that actually are able to beat the dungeon boss the 4 days straight, right? So you could actually argue that right now, yeah, it's Cuphead level kind of difficulty, but that's not going to be the case all the time, right?
Right, gotcha. So that's actually one of my first questions was what were some of the influences for you for some of the dungeon designs and just the overall game concept?
So I mean, part of the game concept was inspired in a game that's called Hades, which is a very, very popular roguelike game from Supergiant. Other inspirations were games like The Binding of Isaac, which is also a very popular game of the same genre. So those were like our inspirations in the sense that we want this game that actually requires skill for you to beat it, right? That you can enjoy it and maybe beat it easily if you want to, but we also offer a challenge for, let's say, the more hardcore gamers or the gamers that are actually looking for a challenge, right? We seemed to feel that, at least at the time, when we began building, there weren't too many challenging games in the blockchain space. Most of the games were more of a, let's say, the staking platforms or games that were actually easier in terms to facilitate the play to earn mechanics, and we didn't really like that approach. We just pretty much realized that hey, making things challenging and engaging might be a better recipe, and that's what we went through. The inspiration for the dungeons themselves, I'd say, goes along the lines of Hades and The Binding of Isaac as well, in the sense that we have different rooms that increase in difficulty as you progress through the dungeons, right? But also plenty of that is just pure creative initiatives. So just like go about and say, okay, we're going to build a map for today, and let's see how we can build it. So it's challenging but not impossible. And then we just start like tweaking numbers and things around, and it seems to have been working well so far.
What's been like the craziest dungeon level?
I'd say that the one that we'll have tomorrow is going to be one of the hardest. I'd say probably, at least so far.
Oh man, okay. I'm excited. What would that dungeon number be then?
Number 4. I mean, so the boss,
Number
it's
4, okay.
mostly through the boss mechanics, and to me, this is just a starting point to what the game can actually offer in the future. Like, even though this is a challenging boss fight and it has like this new mechanics, whatever, to us, this is just like a 10% or 15% of the actual complexity that we plan to introduce to the game in the future. I mean, and I don't mean by that making everything harder and harder, but just like more engaging, more complicated, more something that requires a bit more strategy and not only dodging bullets and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotcha. And actually, I'm so happy that you joined this call because one of the questions that I had prepared is really perfect for a game designer.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted your thoughts on why this like really nostalgic pixel game design seems to be such a staple of the Web3 space. And it's like definitely not going anywhere. It's all over, every NFT marketplace. A lot of different games also use this style. So why do you think that this community in particular favors that over more modern graphics? Because in like traditional gaming space, it's quite rare to see this style, right?
In short, I'd say because we're old. The user base is old people. No, but I'm kidding. But it's partly true to some degree. That's if you think about it,
I think you're right. Everyone wants to be a non.
Yeah, so
we all caught you guys.
So the thing is, if you think about it, most of the users from the crypto space right now, at least, it's of course going to change, but is people between 25 and like 45 years old, right? That's like the user base. It's not the 20-year-olds that are hopping into the blockchain right now. This is the guys that have been around for a while. they're all around, say, my age and higher. I'm 30 right now. And the interesting part is that we all grew up playing games that look, well, like the one we built, right? Like this pixel art, old school, nostalgic graphics that are not only beautiful, but very easy to comprehend, you know? If you ask me, like some games, even though they have like fantastic graphics and stuff like that, they're hard to grasp, at least initially. It's like you see tons of things happening and you don't know what the hell is going on. While with this game, you can really identify very quickly what's happening, what's going on, and you can say, okay, I recognize this kind of features, I recognize this graphics, I recognize this sort of attacks and monsters and patterns of behavior. So it's very easy to adopt it, and it also really appeals to people's nostalgia. And also, I'd say that pixel art on its whole I don't think it's going to go away, even though we have like newer and better graphics. Like the pixel art style of gameplay is a lovable kind of experience, I'd say, and that's why it really sticks to people. Plus, for some reason that might be weird enough, pixel art itself seems to be like a hallmark of Web3. You know, like more of these PFPs and well, all the some of the most successful collections, they were all started as pixel art. They had pixel art, right? So it was sort of natural to use the same graphics in here as well.
Gotcha. Actually, and you know what? I wanted to just let everyone know in the audience that, yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to request to be a speaker. I'm going to just bring in Raza right now and go ahead and ask your question. Raza, the floor is yours. Okay, well, until he's ready for, or she's ready for her question, I wanted to ask you, part of today's Ape into Arbitrum campaign space is a giveaway. And yeah, thank you so much to the Beacon team for preparing not one, but 3 founding character NFTs. And for people who aren't familiar with the characters from the Beacon game, can you sort of share more about why we should be excited about potentially winning these characters and just help us get to know them a bit better?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, the game is free to play. Everybody can hop in and just have like a character, like a base character, let's say, that can experience the game and obtain some items from the game, right? But in order to obtain NFTs from the game, which are items that are rare or above, you need to have a founding character, which is what we are giving away precisely right now, right? And founding characters, you could see them as the entrance ticket towards the game or something along those lines. It's a unique character that has its own name and its own particular and unique look, and you can, well, access all the game features with it. In and of itself, it's not, let's say, a very costly asset. It's just unique. There's about 40,000 of them in the world. But the unique aspect of founding characters is the fact that they are already capped and limited. Any characters that get generated after this will not have similar traits than the one that founding characters have. Founding characters are generated with a specific set of items and looks and a few traits that will not be available ever again during the game's existence. So getting a hand on one of them is a good idea. And also, most of the items inside our game are limited in the sense that they can only be obtained, most of the NFTs, I mean, they can only be obtained at certain periods. And once that period is done, they're no longer obtainable and the supply is capped. So if you get a founding character now and you get your hands on some of these exclusive items, well, you will be getting the initial and first items of the game that will never be generated again. So that's like the perks of having a founding character right
now. Nice. Okay. And all these founding characters, I guess we can somehow or at some point in the game, they can kind of interact with one another.
You will be able to see other players live, and they will have, of course, the looks of their founding characters. So you will be able to interact with other characters from other people inside the game. Yes.
Okay, we love that. Yes, multiplayer is the way to go. Okay, and next, in terms of interoperability, how do you see these characters evolving in terms of where we can maybe see them outside of the game? I know that's kind of a big thing. And then also, what is like the sort of reference to that? Is it like when, the Final Fantasy characters are in, what is that fighting game? Why am I blanking right now?
Wait, I didn't get I didn't
Uh,
get the last part of the question, but I can answer the first one in that sense.
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So,
Yeah, I'm still
so
blanking on that.
it's okay, it's okay. So basically, the interop part of the characters depends on the partnerships that we establish with different projects, right? One of the good parts about us is that we belong to Treasure Dao, which is basically an ecosystem that is very adamant about making interop one of the core hallmarks of its success in the future, right? So we are starting as of now, to work out different solutions where we could use the founding characters outside of the game. Like a very simple one, but just like a small example, Treasure is building what they call a treasure track, which is like an online sort of profile. And if you have a founding character, you can use that character in your profile, right? But there's plenty of more things that will come down the line. It's like we're working with different projects on thinking ideas about, well, if you have a founding character in our game, you will be able to unlock a certain asset on another game, or you will be able to unlock a skin that resembles our founding characters in that game as well. And that is expanding like all over Treasure. But it's not only limited to that. There's plenty of options in the sense, for instance, Treasure DAO has like this initiative of harvester mechanics, which is a complicated theme, but it's pretty much the mechanism in which the magic token gets emitted. And it requires, well, staking of NFTs or burning of NFTs. And we plan also to use founding characters on those mechanics. So as you actually start to look around, you can realize that having like these NFTs can have like plenty and different forms of interoperating with other projects or with broader ecosystem initiatives, which is what we're aiming towards. Because the richer the ecosystem gets, the more that every asset inside that ecosystem benefits. And we're trying to push that forward the more we can.
Well, yeah, I think that would just be like the ultimate dream, right? When everything just intertwines so beautifully like
The
that.
crazy part is that it's
And
not that
so,
far away. I mean,
mm,
it's initiatives are already
right.
in place and the technology is already there. That's the interesting part.
So all that's needed right now, is there any sort of chicken and egg issue left to see that happen? Or is it just like we need the sort of gamers to come in and the ecosystem to grow from that? Or is there another sort of hurdle stopping that from happening like even sooner?
I'd say that of course growth is part of it, yes, but right now it's mostly, let's say, development time, because everything is still very early, right? Treasure as an ecosystem is still quite new. Us as a project are still quite new as well. Like we launched just in November and we began developing about a year ago. So to me, it's basically a matter of time till this infrastructure and interop options are actually created more than something stopping them. Of course, like we don't know how effective some of these things will be for the community, right? Maybe we think that this is going to be like a great idea and it ends up not being one, but at least at least we'll of course try the option. Right now, it seems to be time basically and development efforts what is just stalling that, but that will come on its own accord soon, right? We're all actively developing, so a year from now things will look way different.
Right. Yeah. And it seems like your team too has like a lot on its plate in terms of,
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
yeah, building out the game.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. Yeah. It's,
yeah.
do you find that like quite, just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
with like making sort of new challenges, are you getting a ton of like really fun ideas from the community, or are you finding it a little bit difficult to come up with something fresh that frequently?
I would say that we have like less hands than ideas at the moment. There's plenty of ideas, not only from the team, but also from the community, and plenty of things that we want to execute on. The only issue is that, of course, any idea just needs to be built, and building games takes time. Like building a game is actually it's a hard endeavor. It's way more challenging than what people think it is, because games are actually they're very complicated to create, especially if they have like, I don't know, like fast action mechanics and things that are subject to bugs and stuff like that, right? To me, it's the fact that there's plenty of ideas, plenty of initiatives. I'm very hyped about the future and what we can build. It's just about the fact that, well, creating those ideas in the real world takes a bit of time. That's the only frustrating part, I would say. I would like to be able to clone the team in that sense and just have everything been built fast, have everything getting built faster. But it's a bit tricky because it isn't about, let's say, hiring more people and getting them to build new stuff. It's if you hire somebody new, you need to onboard them and to get them familiarized with the overall company and the idea of the game, and that takes time. So it's not that simple just to get the process to be faster, you know. But we will get there eventually. There's plenty of ideas and plenty of development power. So yeah, I'm excited about that for sure.
Yeah, I almost wonder if traditional game development companies are kind of like kicking themselves because maybe they didn't really take into consideration the fan ideas as much as Web3, like blockchain game companies are doing. And seeing the success of that must, yeah, maybe retrospectively, they're a little bit like, ugh, why didn't we think about that?
So the interesting part is that, well, let's say Web3 gaming as a thing just came about, let's say in 2021, I'd say. Before that, everything was very limited. It wasn't too much of an option to pursue. I mean, you had to be very visionary to actually pursue it with, I don't know, with a bunch of resources, you know? And the tricky part is that, well, game development, especially AAA gaming, takes plenty of time. Like those games have like 5 to 10 year life cycles. You know, it's like it really takes a while to build them. So it's very hard for them to adopt the blockchain ethos and build towards that in the process in the span of 2 years. And the tricky part about it is that the blockchain gaming as it is also has changed drastically ever since its inception, right? In the sense that gamify, let's say or let's call it like that, a year ago was so different from now that 99% of the projects that existed there have already died or disappeared. You know? So it's very hard for gaming companies to actually adapt to this space and build accordingly. I guess that one of the reasons why we've been sort of able to adapt is because we're a small, yet very versatile team. That's I'd say our biggest benefit of building in this space. There are of course like new AAA games coming. That's going to happen eventually, but I do see that they will have a few struggles in the way, as every project in here will. They will need to adapt to the market demands and to the new initiatives very quickly.
Right. Yeah. A lot of sort of new tools for those companies to get used to incorporating. So not easy for like that transition. But I just wanted to ask for, our cross audience, for, and our across users, if they wanted to, ape into the beacon, how would they use across to get started?
So to me, just try the game for free, if you want to. Like if you really want to try it, just go into app.thebeacon.gg. It's going to request MetaMask signature, not a transaction, just a signature. You can use any dummy wallet, whatever it is. And then, well, you can create an account and you will just be able to hit the button play. And with that, you got a base character that can run the dungeons and obtain some loot. That's what I would suggest. Just try the game. And if you like it, go and purchase a character on the marketplace of Trove, which is a very cheap asset, $30 or so. And then you will be able to have your unique, asset inside the game, your unique character, and be able to start obtaining limited edition NFTs in the game. Now, if you don't have assets on Arbitrum, because our project is basically on Arbitrum, you may need to bridge some ETH or any other currency towards Arbitrum. And I guess that's when a cross really comes into play. You will need a bridge. If you don't have assets on Arbitrum, you will need to bridge them at some point in order to purchase via for the marketplace or any other thing that you need to do. But initially, you don't need assets to try the game. You can just try it with a small signature in your MetaMask wallet.
Well, to get this campaign started too, we gave away quite a bit of magic tokens. So if any of our winners are here and they have some left over, you know what to do. But I guess just to close out this AMA, I just wanted to double check that you had sort of said everything that you wanted to say about the collaboration with Kaiju Kings, because I know that's something you guys are working on right now and highlighting.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. So we have an event going on right now with Kaiju Kings, which is a very well-known collection in ETH, at least, and they are building like this huge universe. And we created this event that everybody can participate on. And we're giving several prizes away during the whole week. We're not only giving away tons of founding characters and items inside the game for the people that participate in the dungeons or that join the Discord or that participate on the community contests, but we're also giving plenty of prizes from Kaiju Kings themselves, some of which are actually expensive, over, let's say, 0.2 ETH or so, to people who participate on these initiatives as well. So if you hop into the dungeon and you clear the dungeon, you will be participating. If you share a meme on the meme contest, you will be participating for another giveaway. So we have plenty of events going through this week that I would recommend you to try out, let's say, because there's a chance to really obtain very, very cool and unique prizes during this limited period of time.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that is some good recommendation then. We love a good prize over here. But okay, so I think that's about it. I'm not really seeing any sort of other requests. I think I probably asked like every question possible, but Diego, thank you so much. The Beacon sounds like such a fun game. I really love that we're able to just like give it a try without, having to spend, even though, as you mentioned, like the assets are really affordable, but it's still nice to just try out the game first. So thanks for like making that option for like the average person to just give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for having me as well. I'm just mentioning that the game is still.
Oh, I think you're on mute, by the way.
Oh yeah, so my headphones died at the last moment. So, well, what I was saying is, thank you guys for having me as well. And I just wanted to mention, well, the game is still.
I think we might have lost Diego on the closing statements. Or
Can you guys hear me now? For some reason, I guess my headphones don't want
yes,
anything to do with me right now. So well, basically, I'm just
right.
going to repeat it again. It's basically the fact. Well, thank you guys for having me, and there's plenty of things going down the line with our project. It's still very early on. There's plenty of events coming and prizes and features to be introduced. So stay tuned and give it a shot. It's an interesting process.
Oh yeah, we most definitely will. Thank you to everyone for coming and participating in this space. I think blockchain gaming is really only just getting started, and this is one of the biggest projects on Arbitrum in terms of gaming, and if not in all of Web3. So we really thank the Beacon for joining us today and providing the audience with this amazing giveaway on founding characters. Like, as you heard, pretty rare in terms of like their roadmap. So really appreciate that. And in about 2.5 hours, we have an upcoming game in the Arbitrum world, Rocket Monsters. They went a little bit different with their design strategy. It is more so the crazy graphics that we're used to seeing and like the newest console game. So we'll see why they chose that design style, and I think that's going to be a hidden gem because it's pretty ambitious project for Web3 gaming. So we'll see you guys then. More giveaways, and yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me, and well, see you soon.